Hello everybody, my name is Brianna Crawford, and today I'm going to be talking about DNA evidence and how it does support evolution. I'm going to be using or reading off the notes behind me, so if you see me looking back, that is why. I chose this topic because it is one of the fairly easier ones to explain, so if you don't know what DNA is, just listen and it should make sense. So, what is DNA? DNA is basically the genetic code inside of every living thing. It's pretty much like the instructions or a written manual for how our body acts, or how they're built. So, the way our hair is, our eyes, how tall we are, it basically tells our cells how to act, things like that, etc. Every living thing does have DNA. So humans, fish, trees, dogs, bacteria, literally everything that is living. And we do all use the same four letters, A, T, C, and G. How DNA shows evolution? Scientists compare DNA between different species, so when they do that, they see species that are closely related and have pretty similar DNA, or species that aren't related and have more different DNA. It's like comparing two essays from the same person, so therefore they have the same writing style, same wording, same tiny little habits. DNA is kind of the same way. I guess that would be a pretty good comparison. Some examples would be humans and chimpanzees. We have a 98 to 99% of the same DNA. No, that does not mean that we've come from monkeys. It just means that we have a common ancestor way back when. Dogs and wolves have pretty identical DNA. Almost the exact same, not quite, but it's pretty up there. That just proves that dogs originally came from wolves way before humans bred them. My favorite one is whales and hippos because they look nothing alike, but their DNA is almost exactly the same. They match up in an oddly specific way, so that means that they have a pretty close general ancestor. And whales did used to be land animals, so DNA helped to prove that. These similarities wouldn't make sense unless species were related or changed over time. The molecular, I cannot pronounce it, but the molecular clock or whatever, although I cannot pronounce it, it's a pretty easy thing to understand. So the clock, it sounds complicated, but it's not. DNA gets tiny changes over time, which are called mutations, and those mutations usually happen at a pretty steady rate, pretty much like a slow drip. It's at a pretty slow rate at that. Scientists can compare DNAs from two species that that can basically count how many differences there are. So the more differences, the longer it's been there since they have had a common ancestor. So kind of think of it as like you looking on your phone and you having an app, and if you have, say you're one update behind on an app, that means that you were recently there and you've been keeping up with it. And if you're 40 updates behind, that means it's been a long time. So kind of interpret ancestors in that way. So if you were recently there, or you've had a pretty common ancestor, that's kind of how that would fit in. So that's pretty much how the clock works. Why is DNA such a strong evidence? Some DNA evidence is strong because it lines up with everything else. So it matches up with fossil fuel records, body structures, the behavior of animals and how they act, and where species live. So when scientists say whales come from land animals, it's not really a random take. It is the DNA, the bones, and the fossils that they put together, kind of like a tiny puzzle. Why is it important? Understanding DNA helps with a whole lot more than just evolution. It helps us figure out how diseases are spread, where humans originally came from, how animals adapt, and how different species are related today. So DNA is pretty much nature's receipts. So DNA evidence is one of the strongest proofs of evolution. It shows how species are related, how they change over time, and when they split from common ancestors. And since all living things share DNA, it shows how connected life is on Earth. Thank you for listening to my presentation.